IBAGRADS, Gateway to Your Desired Future.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Manal Hasmi from IBAGRADS and I've been helping my students for the past 7.5 years to ace their SATs. There is a disclaimer, this is the second part of a video that I've already made. So those of you who have not watched the first part, I would really appreciate if you go first and watch that first part. The link of the first part is given in the description below, and then you come to this so that you can have a comprehensive idea of what's going on. Okay, let's move on. In the first part we saw how the SAT has been redesigned, how it has changed, and what is the pattern of the current verbal section of the SAT. Right now let's talk about how we can ace it, but I'll be talking about it in two parts. Okay, I'll be talking about the reading and writing section separately. Now let's take the reading section first. How we can ace the reading section? It's one of the most common dilemmas that the students have right now. Now the biggest problem that we have, the biggest problem is that there is a lot of reading. There's a lot of reading. The reading section is the first section. It's the most difficult section. It's the most undoable part of the paper. It's the part of the paper that because of which we cannot score high on the SAT. All of these are the reviews that I get from the students. It's not something that I tell students. It's not something that the college board has said. It's all that the students say, but it's not the reality. In some cases, yes, if you are not preparing well for it, that may be the reality for you, but it's not the reality for someone who knows how to go about it and who's using the right technique. Now let's try and understand. We have 52 questions, 65 minutes, 5 passages, 3,200 words approximately, and it's not humanly possible if we try and internalize each and every word and we solve all of those questions and read all of those passages in the given time that we have. It's not possible. So I'm not saying that we have to leave something, but we have to go with skimming. We have to read fast. We need to just understand the central idea of the passage. If we drown into the details, if for example ऐसा कर दिया हमने, अच्छा यार वो पीछे क्या बात हुई थी, दोबारा जाऊँ मैं दोबारा उसको पढूं, इस तरीके से नहीं होगा. अगर आपने आगे कुछ भूल गए, ठीक है भूल गए, central idea आपको पता होना चाहिए. That's how we have to go about it. But apart from that, we need to have a mental stamina as well. देखो एक बात है ना, अगर एक बच्चा ऐसा है, एक एथलीट ऐसा है who is running every day, he is building his physical stamina. ऐसे फिजिकल एथलीट का कभी भी कंपैरिजन उससे नहीं हो सकता who takes a jog every now and then, or maybe every once in a while in a week or a month. You can never compare these two people, right? बिल्कुल इसी तरीके से someone who is reading every day and someone who is reading once a week or once a month, ये दो स्टूडेंट्स भी कभी भी कंपेयर नहीं हो सकते, बिकॉज द स्टूडेंट हु इज रीडिंग एवरी डे वुड हैव अ मेंटल स्टैमिना दैट विल नॉट उसको वो एग्जॉस्ट नहीं होने देगा. अक्सर लोगों की ये प्रॉब्लम आती है, सर थर्ड पैसेज पढ़ने के बाद हम एग्जॉस्ट हो जाते हैं, हमें समझ ही नहीं आता हो क्या रहा है. सो यू हैव टू बिल्ड दैट मेंटल स्टैमिना. दैट्स माई पॉइंट नंबर 1. नंबर 2, यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड एग्जैक्टली what the question is asking you. Okay, there may be multiple options that you may find correct, but there will only be one answer. So the answers to SAT reading comprehensions are very mechanical, they are very precise, and they are based on most of the students do not understand what the question is asking for. Now because they do not understand the question, they normally go for wrong answer. The questions would ask you to go for evidence, search for evidence. The question would ask you to talk about the meanings of a word. The question will ask you the central idea of the passage, the entire passage. The question will ask you what does a certain part of the passage means. So you need to understand exactly what the question is asking for and hit that question. If you are trying to figure out the central idea of the passage and the question is asking you about the evidence of a certain fact that has been talked about in a certain line of that very passage, you will never be successful and you will end up wasting your time, and that nothing else would happen. So you need to know exactly what's going on, and that is only possible once you practice. So there is a lot of practice that you need. You need to solve a lot of papers if you want to ace the verbal section, right? But you need to be on one side when there is so much pressure that we have to do this, we have to do that. On the other side, we need to be relaxed. It's not difficult. We need to have that self belief that it's possible. We need to have that conviction that we can do it. It's not a difficult thing, right? So reading section मुश्किल है, करना इतना आसान नहीं होता. स्पेशली आजकल जो इन्फ्लुएंस है सोशल मीडिया, उसकी वजह से हमारी रीडिंग्स इतनी अच्छी नहीं है, तो उस वजह से मुश्किलात ज़्यादा हैं. लेकिन अगर आप चीज़ों को फॉलो करें एंड एग्जैक्टली जो आपको बताया जा रहा है क्लासेस के अंदर, अगर आप उसको फॉलो करें तो आप, इफ़ यू फॉलो द गाइडलाइंस, देयर इज़ नो वे कि रीडिंग सेक्शन के अंदर परफेक्ट स्कोर नहीं किया जा सकता या 700 या 750 से ज़्यादा स्कोर नहीं किया जा सकता. इट्स वेरी डूएबल गाइज, बिलीव मी. ओके, नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द राइटिंग सेक्शन. राइटिंग सेक्शन की अगर मैं आपसे बात करूं, राइटिंग सेक्शन में हमारे पास ग्रामर है पैसेज फॉर्म के अंदर. तो होता क्या है, देखो ज़्यादातर या तो बच्चे दे आर नॉट गुड विद देयर सब्जेक्ट वर्ब एग्रीमेंट्स, they are not taking care of the pronouns, they do not understand firstly what pronouns are, they do not understand the proper usage of the pronoun, and at the end of the day, you know, they end up making those mistakes, right? You need to be very careful with the uses of comma, semicolon and, you know, colons. You need to know exactly where they are used, so that, you know, when they are misused in those passages, you can easily point it out. My take on this is that if you understand what's right, whatever wrong situation, whatever incorrect situation you have in the paper, it won't be a problem for you because you know what's right. So we need to be very careful with the conventions of the grammar. Then we need to be very careful in understanding the style of the grammar, right? So there is one part of this paper that will ask you to, you know, pick up the best starting sentence or the best concluding sentence or the best sentence that would give a proper transition to that passage. In all of those things, if you understand what's going around in the passage, if you understand, obviously the topic sentence or the starting sentence will be something that talks about the rest of the passage. It would be in line with what's written after it. The ending sentence or the concluding sentence has to be in line with what's written before it. So yeah, that's how we go about it. So we need to understand it. Students tend to, you know, they don't read the passage, they don't read that part, and they end up doing it wrong. Okay, so do it again. You know, make sure you are good with all those rules. Make a list of those rules, memorize them. You know, read it again and again, practice again and again, and above all, once you're done with this, once you understand all those reading strategies, once you are reading every day, once you are, you know, once you understand all those grammar rules, it's very important that you practice and you solve the test and reconcile your mistakes. You know, I tell my students to see why their wrong questions are wrong and reconcile them with the right explanations, so that one day, you know, their scores will improve. And at the end of the day, don't hasten, don't try to, it wouldn't happen overnight. You would have to give it some time, you would have to give it some space, you would have to give it, how they call it, some psychological air. Because, you know, if you think that you will start doing it and, you know, after 2 to 3 days your score would just, you know, pop up and it would go from 400 to 700 in the verbal section, it wouldn't happen, I'm telling you. But yes, if you give it 2 months, if you give it 1.5 or maybe 3 months, it is definitely possible. And if you work with consistency, what I call the ant psychology, you know, the ants, they would never stop. Whatever happens, they would never stop. You can never stop an ant. The only way to stop an ant, is to, you know, kill it. If you kill it, अगर आप उसको मार दें, वो रुक जाएगी, वरना वो नहीं रुकती. So you just don't have to stop, right? You just don't have to stop. You just have to keep on working hard with consistency. और आपका एक दफ़ा वो रिदम डेवलप हो गया, इंशाल्लाह you will see कि आपका स्कोर वर्बल सेक्शन के अंदर बढ़ जाएगा और वो सारे जो आपके मिसकंसेप्शन और स्टीरियोटाइप्स हैं, आप खुद उसको रिमूव करेंगे. थैंक यू सो मच. दिस वाज तलाल हुसैन साइनिंग ऑफ. अस्सलाम वालेकुम.